That's how we start. I think I started recording at your laugh. For mine, that's what she said.
Can you see that well?
Can I see what the notes?
Mm-hmm.
Pretty well.
Okay. So my part is, hey girl. Is that my part?
Yeah, that is your
part. We're actually undercover FBI agents, so we have to move from location to location.
Yeah. We be in the car, we be at the house, we be in different locations in the house, okay? And now, sorry for whispering, we are in an undisclosed location called my mother-in-law's building. So forgive if there's a lot of random cuts and chops. Yes. Or noises while we're saying something.
We are committed and we're going to get this content.
We are getting this out. We're doing this. Okay.
We love you all, okay?
Okay.
Well, let's let it flow. Let's
see. Okay. Because, we usually don't do it.
We do.
Let's just do it.
Well, this is going to be our random intro today. That's Taylor.
And that's Abby.
And today we are just going to be talking about how our jobs have changed us. So we just want to talk about how, like, when you start working for a job that you, whether or not you think you're going to love that job regardless, you just kind of have to start to become a chameleon and change to their expectations of how they want you to behave in a certain way. And it almost kind of changes you in a bad way, not necessarily a good way. There's some good changes, but I just feel like a lot of the times, it's a lot of bad changes.
Especially with being in management, you have to really like look at people's ulterior motives, like what they're actually thinking versus what they're saying, what like they say they can do and what you know they're actually going to do. Like you can tell them to do a million things before you leave for the day, and what is actually going to be done tomorrow, you just never know. Or you'll start to learn that person and you will know. But it's just little things like that from your job that'll change you from being the carefree person you once were, and
bubbly
bubbly person you once were, and you kind of turn into like a parent or a
drill sergeant,
more so a drill sergeant. So,
or like even for me, I'm not necessarily in management in my job, but I just feel like sometimes I have to learn, like you're trying to be yourself in a space and you kind of feel like sometimes when you don't fit in, you see everyone else being themselves, and then you just kind of have to like tone it down or tone yourself back, which of course there's appropriate ways you have to do that for work anyway, but sometimes I feel like when you're in a new space, everybody else can be, not even in a mean way, but people can be like in their own buddy space, and then sometimes I'll join that space sometimes and I'll try to like be laughy and jokey, and then sometimes I just feel like it don't be working at all and it's really awkward sometimes.
For sure, I'm not quick to socialize. Like some people will jump into a group just so that like they're with everybody. I'm okay with being by myself for a long period of time, so people kind of like notice me sitting off in the corner or doing my own thing versus like really trying to join the group, which I feel like is a natural human instinct to do, and I just do not have that instinct in me.
Like think about the first times you saw yourself, you having to chip away at who you are. I remember when I was first becoming a nurse, everybody saw that I was more sensitive, and I don't even remember like being overly sensitive outwardly. I don't remember like doing anything that would make people think, oh, that girl is just sensitive. But I was just existing pretty much. I wanted to experience what the ER was like as a nurse. I didn't have the experience in nursing school. I just had to like ask one of my clinical instructors, hey, like I heard you work in the ED, like can I just shadow you or somebody else? So I did, and I was just literally shadowing, was not like being her assistant. I didn't have to be a nurse. I didn't have to put on as a student nurse. I was just shadowing, and they knew that was my purpose. But I was shadowing someone else, and my clinical instructor was watching me, even though this was not school related that day. And she just approached me and she was like, you know what? I can tell you're sensitive and that's not going to work out for you in nursing. Like you need to get a harder shell on your back because people will walk over you. And I was like, what was I doing? I was just existing.
I'm like, I was just naturally being myself, always saying like please and thank you for everything. My parents, that's just how, like since I can remember, since I had consciousness, probably 3 years old, my parents told me like after you do everything or before you do anything, say please and thank you. It's not like in a submissive like or like that I feel less than the person type of way. I'm not begging you. I just naturally will always say please. And my boss told me, she was like you can't always say please to them. And I'm like, girl, what? This is just how I naturally talk.
We talked about this actually in our previous video about jobs, like how college jobs have affected you and like how they helped us. Check out that video if you have not yet. But I remember when I was working at an animal hospital and I started to work around doctors and veterinarians, and I got the same kind of experience where they were being rude to me. Like I wasn't doing anything wrong. They were just stressed and they began being short with me. And that was when I said someone gave me the great advice. And if they're already being rude to you and you're just being good and doing your job, then why do you care anyway? Just do your job regardless and be an upstanding person anyway. They know you're doing your job well. They're not going to say anything bad about you doing your job. They're just irritated because of their own day and they're taking it out on you. So just do what you need to do. Don't be afraid, because I was afraid to like approach them and ask them certain questions. I would make my own job harder because I was trying to go around and beat around the bush and delay. I would delay tasks that would involve me having to talk to them because I didn't want to interact with them. And I had to learn how to put on that hard shell. And I think that I'm not going to say that's not a great skill to learn, because I think it is a good skill to learn regardless, but it just sucks to have to learn how to like turn off your emotions towards people being rude to you, which again, that can be a good thing, but it's like, it's just a sucky thing to have to learn. Like, I don't want to have to like get used to, like when you as a manager, you have to get used to like, okay, I'm going to have to approach this person no matter how rude. Like learning that the world and people are just so rude no matter what to you. And they're going to, like they will try to stomp on you and be so rude to the point where it's not just like saying something no matter what they're going to say, but it's worried about them literally stomping on you and being so rude to you that you just have to be ready. You have to prepare for the best, like prepare for the worst, hope for the best. Like I don't like having to approach people at my job preparing for the worst, like preparing for you to literally want to chew my head off and I haven't even done anything.
Right? Or just asking them for things that are like literally a part of their
job.
Exactly. Like this was in your job description and I'm asking you to do it and you're like rolling your eyes and getting an attitude, or like feeling like I'm managing you too much as your manager. Like what was I supposed to do?
Yeah. So
while you were talking, I was thinking about how like when dealing with call-offs as a manager, like I would hear the craziest stories and it kind of desensitized me to like people who are actually going through something, because you hear like the same thing so much to when like it's actually somebody who's serious, you don't know if you should take them serious or not. And that really bothered me as a manager, because I do like to like really relate to people, and if somebody's going through something, I want to be able to help you. But you hear like, oh, I got the stomach flu so much. It's like, how many stomach flus do we actually have? You're gonna make it harder for the next person who's actually really going through something, because I don't know who's telling the truth anymore.
No.
So it's little things like that you just have to like change yourself and adjust yourself as a manager or as anybody working, like dealing with anyone. So
was that the time you said, the time where you were talking about your manager saying don't say please and thank you? Did they talk about you being too bubbly and overly nice at that point? Or was it a different
I don't know
time?
if that was the same conversation. I think it may have been a continuation of that conversation of me just being a bubbly person with the employees, because even I learned that myself. Like once it's hard to be a manager and also be, I guess you can say, cool with someone, because it makes you cross boundaries and lines when you're laughing with someone one second and then telling them what they did wrong or what they could do better the next. So it's like a really fine line between that. So I do understand it in some instances where you just cannot be bubbly and the nice person that you normally are, or the relatable person that you normally are, because the next second I have to tell you like you can't ever do that again, or whatever you did was wrong. So it just makes it really hard to kind of switch as a manager.
It just, girl, this video is like hand in hand with the college jobs for me, because that reminds me of like the monotone thing I told you about. How like when I was working at the Bradley Fund back in the day where we went to Bradley University, we went to college together. And I was working as a team leader at the time, and I was trying my best, trying my hardest to like be nice to people, and I was being bubbly to my team. And then all of a sudden this girl like all of a sudden just still didn't like me, and she enough to bring it up to like managers and to say something to them. Like, I just don't think that she likes us. She's being like monotone and I was like, girl, I'm going out of my way to like bake for y'all.
After all those cookies.
Yeah, I baked all those cookies and cupcakes for them, and I was like doing fun activities. But just because I naturally have a resting, blessed face, I don't want to say that face, just because I have that face, people think that I'm not nice. Like, I can be physically being nice to you, but it's like just because all your ducks don't line up in a row of you being a perfect manager. Because there are some mean managers out here, but just because I'm not like being a perfect manager makes it that or a team leader, or whatever, I wasn't. So now I have to change myself again and force myself to smile, just because me smiling makes you happy as opposed to you just being secure in yourself.
Right? You can't really judge a book by its cover because honestly, I would say you're one of the most empathetic, like nicest. You make people feel so
I
like
don't
you
take
try to make
compliments
people.
well, guys. You'll notice that.
You try to make people feel so comfortable, like that's one of your superpowers, and it's like for somebody to judge you off of like the face that you're making is crazy. Because out of anybody to go to in a room, I would go to you.
But what's crazy too is like I understand judge a book by its cover in the second, just like even in the first instant. But you've known me for months now. At this point, I've shown you that I'm a nice person, and when I'm talking to somebody one on one, I make myself look. Like, and it's not even forcing myself to look, but I know I kind of look like this, so I do try a little harder to be a little more smiley. And I'm not a super smiley person, because she, as you see,
oh God,
she always got that smile on her face. Now, every time you see Taylor smile, take a drink of water, okay? But I don't smile that much, so like, you can still tell. You don't have to be a smiley person to think that somebody's nice. But either way, what you were saying with being an empath too, that kind of like makes your job, doing your job a little bit difficult too, because I feel like we're both empaths, and that's why she was giving everybody breaks with the stomach flus, okay? Because she was like, okay.
My manager really had to pull me aside and show me how she did things, and like that's where I got the whole technique, I guess you could
Which
say.
is not even good. It's like, of what? Being mean or something?
I know.
What?
Instead of just saying, okay, or if you don't feel good, like, oh, we'll get some rest, like go to the doctor, let me know how everything's going, go to the doctor. Like that would be normal me. But I just had to learn to be like, here, we got some crackers, eat those. Sit in the lunchroom.
Y'all being a whole school nurse.
15.
Like, yeah.
You got to take an extra 15, but I still need you to come in. I just had to learn how to be more direct and ask for what I want, which is not it actually turned into a good thing for me, because I would let people get away, obviously, with everything. So I just had to learn how to get what I want while also still helping somebody else.
I'll never forget, low key, that day we were on the phone. No, we weren't on the phone. You were sending a voice recording, and you saw a certain employee that was
walking out or something.
They were like, they had just started their shift, and you were on your break in the car.
Yes.
And you saw them. You like, I know they just got here 5 minutes ago, and they're already walking back to the car. I hope they don't tell me they got some kind of emergency. Because like
they do that all the time. And honestly, if I'm being 100% honest, if you're doing your work, I don't mind you taking an extra 15. I don't mind that stuff.
If your job gets done, then that's fine.
But not leaving. Come on, you're not about to leave. Like, you're going to have to sit in the lunchroom and take another break, but you're not about to leave for the day. Because people, and again, when there's something serious, I completely understand that. But sometimes it just gets hard to figure out who's telling the truth.
If people were honest, then managers wouldn't have to like constantly ask us 10,000 questions. But
even like personal days, like I get it. Like when you just wake up and you just cannot do it for that, I completely understand that. But that's better than like all the like fictional or like my tire just flew off on like, it was just the wildest
Kevin
story.
Hart. There was a baby on the highway.
But
it was a deer, bruh.
It was a whole bunch of deer bruhs all the time at work. It was like, okay, all right now. Or two, as a manager, it is your job to take on what other people, like you need to finish up the project. You wrap everything up. So a lot of people like you'll give them tasks for the day. Like if I leave at 4 or 5 o'clock and I give my closing team tasks, and they don't, like sometimes if it's a busy night, I understand you can't complete everything, but sometimes it's like, no, you were going out to your car for the 5th time, or you were sitting in the lunchroom chit-chatting for the 6th or 7th time. So it's like things like that. My store manager is looking at me like, well, did I ask you guys to complete this? And if my team doesn't do that, it looks like I didn't do anything for the whole day. So everything really just falls back on you, and it can be really tough when you are taking on the strengths and weaknesses of a team of 10 or 15 people, and all of that falls back on you. So it just gets really tough sometimes.
I think all these lessons, hopefully we'll be able to take them with us one day if we go somewhere. One day, like, share, and subscribe, so we can go somewhere. Seeing people who do start their own businesses, like I get it. You almost really do have to change yourself. And definitely write in the comments too, like if you guys have ever had to change yourself, or you see or you feel different things about yourself that you've had to change because of your job. But
I will say, before we go to our next subject, one good thing that I think we both kind of got from Bradley Fund was being able to ask for things. Because I know in retail, like, you have cards that you have to open, or like different goals that you're trying to hit. And one thing that I'm no longer afraid of is asking people for anything. Like, certain times, like, you don't always have the motivation every day to, like, we had to ask to open, or ask customers if they wanted to open, like, our rewards card, basically. And I, like, it was so many people that you have to, like, really train on how to do that. And I'm so used to being, like, rejected at the Bradley Fund, or people telling me that they didn't want to donate and didn't want to do certain things, that when it came to opening cards, or things that, like, you know, your manager will throw a task at you kind of just to see, like, what you'll do, sink or swim. I was ready to swim with that, because I'm going to ask you a million times and I do not care. And that is, like, one thing, like, learning about rejection that I can say jobs have changed me with, and it turned out to be a good quality.
you know what's so funny about that? I'm not afraid. I can apply that to my job, but in a way, don't you still have, I guess your job forces you to constantly have to socially interact more on a daily basis. So you, like, every customer you see, you have to. But me as a school nurse, like, I have tasks that I should be getting done during the day, but, like, I have a more flexible amount of time to get those things done. So for example, like, when I have to call parents and get updated paperwork, or let them know that a certain medication is going to run out, or that it's expiring, or letting people know, like, your kid, or even sometimes, like, a kid that's sick and I don't have to call immediately, or something happened and I know it's nothing really wrong. I just sometimes be delaying calling them because I just don't be feeling like talking to nobody sometimes. So even though and sometimes I, like, even having to ask these parents for, because I know they be getting irritated sometimes, and I'm just, again, see, this is what I'm saying, honestly, I
feel for them.
I feel for them, and that's the impact. But that's why, honestly, saying this out loud, it makes me, part of me just don't be wanting to socialize. Let me just say that. I'm a socialize with this camera, but I really just don't be wanting to socialize.
No, same. If it wasn't my job, I wouldn't do it at all.
Yeah, but it's, you know what, it's even not even just socializing, but it's socializing with people where I'm honestly just asking you to do something, and it's for the better of your child, but people will give you attitude and be irritated because which that's why I just half the time don't even want to talk to people. It's not even because I don't want to do my job, but it's because I know some of these parents are just going to give me crap for no reason, so I delay it. But I think the Bradley Fund taught me, like what you were saying, to do better with it. But I just don't be wanting to talk to people half the time.
I still don't ever
and asking
want
them
to,
stuff. And so since it's more flexible, I'll, like, put off, like, okay, I have a sticky note full of things that I should be doing, things that I should get done by this date or the end of the week. And I still be putting it off sometimes because people are going to be mean to you anyways. Like, I learned a lesson. And so I need to do better with, again, I still be kind of caring about people. I delay certain tasks if I feel like somebody's going to be mean to me. And I feel like these parents are going to be rude and get irritated with me for asking them for something that their child needs. In reality, I shouldn't be that way because your child is the one that needs it. So why the heck are you mad at me about it? But yeah, I still do that. But I think having that mentality of asking for what you want is so important because, like, we want to open up our own business. We want to do something like that. So I think we both would need that. A girl who does my hair, she was saying how she has her own entrepreneurial, other aspects, other businesses other than hair. And she wanted to get a photo shoot done. And she put this photographer on her payroll, I guess, for a year or two. And he never edited the photos, and she never asked for them up front because she didn't need them. And then she didn't need them until that relationship ended, that payroll ended. And then once that ended, she needed to get the photos. And he said, I never edited them, and I'm not on your payroll right now. So you're going to have to pay me again if you want me to edit those photos. And she was like, excuse me, but you were on my payroll when you took the photos, and you knew it was part of your duty to edit them, so why would I? And so he was really trying to, like, tell her, well, if you want me to edit 10, it's going to cost you this much. You want me to edit 20, it'll cost this much. And that's crazy. You have to be able to really stand up for yourself and just have the ability to stand up for yourself and say what it is that you want and learn from your own mistakes when you're, like, your own true boss.
That reminded me of 2 points. Hopefully I remember both two, but the first one I will say is, like, you were saying how you like avoid tasks, which I definitely do that when something looks too overwhelming in general, not even like knowing that there'll be a negative outcome. It could be something positive at the end. Like now that I've been doing TikTok like commission based sales, I look at so many like, honestly, this part you're not gonna clap on, because sometimes they'll send me things like, oh, you can promote this or that, and I know like you can ask for samples or you'll have to pay for it, but you basically make that money back in the sales that you get. Like they'll give you the product and you make the money back. But even look, like I get so many and I don't even know how to work it, and sometimes I wish I had like I'm just beginning, so I don't have enough to have a manager. I wish I had somebody to like tell me, okay, go after this brand, or like work with this vendor, or this is the steps to doing this. It's like so many small companies, and they're just beginning too, so I'm pretty sure they don't know all the steps. I can tell by their pages that they only have like a few products and they just want anybody to promote. If they see that you're already promoting product, they'll ask you, but it's like I don't even know where to start, so I end up avoiding all of them. And it's like, what if this is the one thing that can help me like get so much money, or like the one thing that goes viral on my TikTok, and I'm just avoiding it all because I don't know what to do.
I know we said the title is how your job has changed you, but almost I feel like it's more so how I feel like we're kind of alluding to reasons why we not put ourselves down, but we doubt ourselves in a way, and we doubt our abilities, and doubt can turn into avoidance. And also our jobs do change us and stuff. But I was going to say, when you were saying you doubt yourself, with me it's with YouTube. Like I look back, like I know people who have been doing YouTube for a long time. They have lots of videos out, and they are really trying their hardest to get, subscribers and views. And it's been a long time, like well over a year. But for me, I look back and I had uploaded maybe 10 videos, or maybe 12, and I saw the amount of views I was getting and the subscribers I was getting, and it still wasn't an astronomical amount, but it was definitely more than like 1, 2, or 5 views. Like I was doing okay for someone who just started, but instead I was just kind of like, I was avoiding it because I was like, man, this is still a long route to go. Nobody's going to want to watch me. I don't want people I know to find out and to see it. Shout out to everyone who does know me and who's watching these videos right now, and I didn't even want them to know about it, but yeah, I just started to doubt, and you start to avoid doing certain tasks because things seem so astronomical. And that was the other thing I was going to say too at my job. There's certain tasks that I have to do. Like, for example, we live in Chicago and we have a lot of migrants that came in. And this is not about how you feel about migrants and stuff, but when I see those children coming in and they don't even have, might be the only 2 meals they're eating that day. This is the only place the parents feel safe to bring their children for the day, and they're learning and they're in a happy, safe environment. Do what you do, but like a lot of these kids, they come with their own health issues, and as a school nurse, they are in the school, they're enrolled in the school, they're my responsibility. So if they come in there with asthma, whatever, I have to follow up with that. So it's a long task though, because I'm not fluent in Spanish, but everybody else around me is. So one, I have to constantly ask for help, which is another thing, and I feel bad, and I feel like I'm annoying people constantly asking for help with that. But it takes me forever to I'll have a list of 10 or 15 kids, and I have to constantly call the parents and figure out what's their story, what does the child really have, when was the diagnosis, get the whole story of their health, and then give them resources on where to go, and then see if I can meet them in person, and then give them paperwork, and then write down a note about who I gave the paperwork to and what I gave them and what the story is and when do I expect it back, and do I need to start a whole plan for this child. And then that could be 10 or 15 kids on, and it's not even just migrant kids, but it was a huge, I'm thinking about them because it was a huge chunk of them at the time, but it could be, any kids just in Chicago in general. But at this point, this past school year, that's what we were dealing with. And I was looking at that long list for the longest time, and I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know how. Because again, it's also the language barrier too. Because even when I finally do call, I have to wait for someone else to have time to be able to translate for me and then that's the thing, when someone's translating, it's even more difficult because when you're asking medical questions, it's difficult to to think of the exact words and to remember. I'm trying to not only remember everything I'm trying to ask, but I'm trying to say it to them, and then they have to translate it to you. You have to say it back, and then I might have 10 more questions based on that.
Right.
But I can't. We don't even have time for all that. But if it was in English, it would be a lot easier. But then now I have a lot more questions to ask, and I can't postpone another conversation with you because we only really have this one time, and you don't even have a phone. You don't even really have a phone number. Sometimes you're using like the shelter phone. So it's all those things and these big tasks. And sometimes I end up delaying it. And I be looking at this like, this is a lot. But they kept telling me, and I keep saying it in my head, and I know I'm going to start saying it at work a lot. How do you eat an elephant? Have you heard that one?
Uh-huh.
One bite at a time. So like you just
say that.
have to take your time.
Picture, you need
Yeah.
to just take your time.
And then sometimes I realize, even at home with dumb stuff, like, do you ever delay tasks, but you realize
it looks like so much.
it looks like so much,
And
but then you realize how much you could have gotten done if you weren't delaying the task. Like, I think about, and then what's crazy is when I finally do start doing the task, I'm like, man, this was a lot. What if I would have put this off? It's a lot. But then sometimes when I put it off, I'm just like, girl, you could have had so much done by now if you would have just did it. And I think of like video ideas and things I want to record and things I want to do. I'm just like, nobody's going to watch that. But then you have an idea and then you see somebody else doing it in a very similar way to what you would have done, or you have
really
10,000 more ideas.
We're
and you
all
wish you
on one server. I promise you we are. Because your thought, like the next day somebody will do it and you're like, I was literally just thinking that, and they get like thousands of views on something you just thought of. Like if you don't pull the thought down, somebody else will. So
that's why I keep talking about what Kev on stage said. He says, don't even think. He said, think, edit, post. Like, we are chasing our dreams, okay?
Yes.
We're changing ourselves, and we want to become bosses, and we want to do what it is that we truly feel like we're called to do. So yeah, we are changing ourselves, and we're learning as we go, and we're becoming more social.
Yes, we are trying our hardest. While you were talking though, I remember my first point. It kind of related to what you were just saying about being very like detail oriented and taking notes about everything you do.
Yeah.
Because that helps you out so much when somebody comes back to you and they ask you what you did or what you said and you have it down. And you were saying the same thing with like your hairstylist and her pictures, which should have been edited in the original like situation. But have contracts, write everything down. Also, like, of course, I'm not doing contracts in retail, but like just taking note of little conversations I have. You never think about that in the moment, but you really have to
email trail, you have to document all that stuff, because when somebody, I know for sure me, I don't think about these conversations when I go home. So if somebody questions me the next day, I'm like, what are you like, huh? What are you talking? Like, I have to have an email trail or things written down, and it's so important to do that and be very specific. Even this year, I've gotten a few tattoos, and I was looking at, shout out to my tattoo artist, she's amazing, Inky Spa, and I think she follows me on TikTok. But like her, she's very detail oriented, and I know she's been working in the industry for so long, and she has like a very detailed list of what you can and can't do before you come, and what her expectations, and like it really sets the standard, and it protects her from like anything people can say she did wrong or right. And that's something that, looking at another entrepreneur or just learning in retail or learning in nursing, you have to document as much as you can and write down specifically what you want done. So if somebody doesn't do it, you have a paper trail of what you said they were obligated to do, and like the start and end date, all of that. Be as detailed as you can. Yeah, that's what we were saying. It's the ways that jobs have changed us, not only in a bad way, but in a good way too. But like, I just think overall, we're looking for a way to be able to be more ourselves, because I think this whole podcast, How Did I Get Here? The whole point is like, how did I really freaking get here? Like, when you're in a position of something where you truly don't really feel like you're where you want to be, or you want to be yourself, that honestly forces you to change more than you want to, and you can honestly feel God making you uncomfortable in a space, like more uncomfortable than you would be somewhere else, because praise God, hopefully one day we're really able to take this business and like do something great with it. But we have to be able to stand up for ourselves and like really learn from our mistakes and be able to really figure out what it is that we want to do. And I think it'll be easier to learn from our mistakes and be uncomfortable in a place that like we're uncomfortable doing this right now. Like, before we start, we're really trying to figure this out, and that's one thing. Like, but we feel more of a pleasant discomfort doing this.
I will definitely.
We don't feel anxiety doing this. Like, we feel work anxiety. I know I uploaded a short about having work anxiety. Like, we feel anxiety. How many people have cried on the way to work, cried on the way home from work, cried in the parking lot? Like, I don't want that kind of like discomfort. In my job, I feel like sometimes you can tell the difference of, like I was saying, some people are more friendly than others, and everybody's nice to me. No one is ever mean or rude to me. But it's always just like weird culture where I just feel like I can't quite like get in. Like I feel like I'm always kind of on the outside, and whenever I say something, it's kind of awkward or wrong. Like when I finally try to open up and I'm saying something jokingly, it's always like wrong.
Yeah.
Or it's always at the wrong timing.
Yeah.
Or on
And
top.
you can feel that.
And so I'm like, let me just shut up.
Yeah.
Because everybody else is joking, but when I joke, it's like, okay, nah.
Yeah.
And that's just, maybe I'm not really meant to be here or be in that space. And like sometimes even, again, of course, because I'm not like Spanish speaking, I feel like I'm kind of a burden to them sometimes, because we'll have meetings where I'm the only one in the meeting that doesn't speak Spanish, because if the parents speak Spanish and they have to speak Spanish. And I'm just over here like, so can someone help? Like I literally feel like my own daughter right now, that I need to help her learn English because she knows nothing because she's 1. But like I'm 29 and people are like, girl, you don't know this by now. Like, no, I don't. Like I didn't speak. It was not a requirement for me to be a nurse to learn how to speak Spanish. I would love to learn how to speak Spanish, but I just don't. And so I just always feel like I'm on the outside sometimes. No matter how nice these people are to me, they're very nice, but it's always just like really weird awkwardness. Like I messed up one time, and they all got this inside joke that they were making about something in a conversation they wanted to have in a certain meeting, or certain things they didn't want to bring, but they were openly talking about something, and I didn't know that it was like a secret. And so when this person walked into the room and they sat down, they were all like, oh, hey, so and so, talking to them. And then all of a sudden it was an important aspect of the meeting that I asked them about, and then everybody kind of looked at me like, oh, why would you say that to that person? Like, you shouldn't have. But it was because they had a different opinion on it than that person did, and they didn't want to talk to him about it yet. And they didn't say that. They were just like laughing and joking about it. And it was never made known that it was a secret. I never heard them say like, oh yeah, when they get down here, don't talk to them about it. Yeah, we're going to have to, like, it was nothing like that, but I just didn't get it. And they were just looking at me like I was crazy. And I was like, clearly I just be missing all the cues. Sometimes as an empath, you can tell when someone in a room is feeling uncomfortable. You almost draw yourself to the new person, and you start to feel them out, and you can see if they're uncomfortable or not. And I think because we are like that, we almost expect other people to be like that, and they're not. And it's not even that I expect you to go out of your way, but sometimes it's not even the basics. We're like, you guys know I'm honestly sitting in this meeting and I don't know what is going on, and I'm just constantly trying to like look at your computer and take notes. But sometimes they'll like slide their computer over to me, and other times when they're really, really focused, they're into it and they're not really. And I get it, they have to do their own jobs and stuff, but sometimes I really have to like follow up and constantly advocate for myself, and like nobody's really caring or paying attention to what I'm saying, and I miss out on so much stuff, and I'm just like, okay, well, I guess I'm just gonna sit down and shut up and not ask any questions, because then I start to feel like a burden, because I'm asking so many questions constantly in this space, and I'm just like, look, okay. And praise God, I will say I do love where I'm at. I love the place I'm at. It's a great place, but I can still tell the discomfort I'm feeling is for a reason, versus the discomfort we feel doing what we're doing now that we enjoy doing.
Just went to church yesterday. A word they used was divine discomfort, I believe it was. I have to go back and look at it because I know they record too. But you are meant at this time in your life. It's not like you said, you're in a pretty good spot and it's better than you were before, but this is still temporary. So you're meant to feel that this is temporary because it's divine. Like, it's meant for you to feel this discomfort so that you can do more and continue. Because you'll get stuck. Once you feel so good or comfortable or content in a spot, you'll stay there unless you get that discomfort again, so that you're pushed to do more and more. And like, I think that's so important to feel that, so you have the motivation, because they were also talking about like how you can lose your motivation and lose, like, you get to a point where you're almost like dormant or not doing anything at all and stuck in a feeling. And if you're not active, if you're not doing anything, you're basically dead. So you have to have that. I mean, that's literally how they put it. You have to have that zest for life and that thing, find your passion and that thing that motivates you to keep going. Something that you can put 100% into. And they also mentioned, what is the phrase that you told me? They were talking about being lukewarm, or like having nothing at all that you put 100% into, which is why I really want to continue working on our channel and working on our own personal goals, because you have to find something in life that you are willing to put your all into. And if you're not in that spot yet, you need to keep going. You might not know how you got there or how you're getting to your next step.
How did I get here?
But you have to keep going until you find something that you really want to put your all into.
Yeah, 100%. And I think where we've found that thing, and I'll end it with, do you have anything else? There's a podcast that I love. It's called My Favorite Murder, but they've been doing it since 2016, and they actually, I've only been listening to it since like 2020 or something like that. So they started this episode thing of, it's called Rewind, My Favorite Murder. So they started playing the first episode and they added commentary to it. And it's so funny to listen to how well put together they are now versus their very first episode sounded a lot like our very first episode. We don't know what the heck is going on. And they gave commentary to it. They were like, we were in your apartment in California, in LA with like no air conditioning, and they were like kids screaming in the back, and like the way they, there was no like real formats of what they were doing. They were just talking and chit chatting to now like almost 8 and a half years later, they've been doing this podcast, and like there's so much more put together there. But the fact that listening to them just starting, and like if you have something that you want to do, no matter what it is, even if it's like a certain business, look at that person and where they were when they just started. Sometimes that's a bit of a motivation to you, because we always look at somebody else's final destination and compare that to our starting line, and that's definitely not the case. Some people, you do have a head start, but a lot of the people, they don't have a head start at all. So it was so encouraging to hear them and hear what they were talking about, and they said the exact same thing of what we had. They even talk about where were they at the time, and she was saying how she had 2 jobs just trying to make ends meet.
Goodness,
She said I was underwater in my mortgage and I was struggling, and she said I had no business doing this podcast because I needed to be working, because I needed to make money. But then she said I hated the idea of just working for money.
Oh my god,
that's literally what she said.
Yes, I think about that all the time, because I know you've talked to me about like some of your friends having the motivation from money. I don't have that, and I think that's what separates me from a lot of people.
Yeah, so it's just encouraging to hear people say that, and they have the exact, when she said that, she said I'm working 2 jobs. I had no business doing this podcast because I was broke as a joke. If anything, I should have been working more, but I just don't want to work for money anymore. Like you want to wake up and do what you're passionate to do, and allow, just like what we were talking about earlier, you just want to allow your money to fund, like you to support your basic needs, but to just be able, you want to do what you're passionate about, not just. And if what you're passionate about is your job, then that's great, but we are searching for it right now. We are trying to figure it out. So yeah, comment below anything you can think of what you can relate to us, and like how your job has changed you. What are you doubting yourself on? If you could do it right now, like without money being a problem, like what are your true dreams? And do you have any like steps that you want to take to achieve those dreams? Like let us know.
Thank you guys for watching, and we will see you next time.
Bye.
Thanks. Oh, that's so millennial of me.